I tell you what, the gals that lead worship do a good job, don't they? I'm grateful for their willingness to serve. I'm grateful for Jennifer and her willingness to play. And I'm sorry she's not feeling well today. We are picking up where we left off. And so we've been talking about strapped. Everybody remembers what it is to be strapped, right? Anybody ever been strapped? Strapped for cash, don't have enough money to make it through the month. Ever been there? Yeah, I think we all have at some point. And we have talked over the last few weeks about what that means and what that looks like. And so, to review very quickly, we started off talking about a godly perspective on money, and where we ended was we don't serve money, money serves us as we serve God. And I threw out a lot of statistics about where people are and how things go. And then last week, we talked about how to get out of debt. And I said, turn to your neighbor and tell him, act your wage. So turn to your neighbor, tell him, act your wage. Act your wage. Okay, and we talked about some of the ways that we're going to go about getting out of debt, right? Talked about making a plan, talked about sacrifice and what it is to sacrifice. Talked about the long-term plan. Giving up something we love for something that we love even more. And going back to our theme verse for the whole thing, it is Proverbs chapter 22, verse 7. The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is the servant to the lender. Which is to say that if you owe, you're enslaved. You've got that hanging out over your head. We talked about those strategies last week, but this week I want to talk about what we do when we finally get to the stage where we don't have all this stuff hanging over our head. And so what we're going to talk about today is saving and investing. That's exciting stuff, right? No, yes. Some of you are looking at me going, what? Save, invest. If you don't know what you're doing with investing and saving, it can be very, very overwhelming. But it's important. See, dare I say that there are two types of people in this world. There are spenders and there are savers. Anybody know anybody in their life that's a spender? Raise your hand. Don't point, raise your hand. Yeah. You got spenders. And you know what? I've kind of discovered that you can kind of see it early on in somebody what their tendency is. So I've got a daughter who she is not a spender. She never spends her money. She'll get money and she tucks it in her piggy bank and she just holds on to it. It just stays there. And then I've got a son who, if we let him, he would probably spend every dime he ever got. And so I can already see we got our saver and we got our spender. And we've kind of already talked about the fact that most of America for the most part is a spender, right? Why? 54% of households live paycheck to paycheck. That means that over half spend the money as soon as they get it. Now, I want you to understand that what I'm not doing here is I'm not condemning those people, okay? What I am saying is that that's a problem. And so I understand sometimes for a single mom, she might be making minimum wage, having to work 2 different jobs just to try to make ends meet. And I am not saying that she is a bad person. Please don't take it that way. What I'm saying is there's a better way if we can break out. And so that's what this whole series has kind of been about. And like I said, we talk about spenders and savers, but we also talk about that a lot in our culture, and we can see it. Turn on the television. And what do you see? About every 5 minutes, you see what? Advertisements. Sometimes there's more advertisement than there is show. Turn on the TV on a Saturday afternoon and you turn on advertisements that are shows, right? The Wonder Cooker. You too could have this for 5 easy payments of $29.95. It's amazing. It cooks pancakes, steak, bakes cakes. And we watch these things, literally 30 minutes of advertisement. Why? Because they know they have your captive attention for that time, and they're going to try to sell you something, and they're selling you something, and we know they're selling you something because they're making millions and millions of dollars doing it. That's the world we live in. We're constantly bombarded. Open a magazine, open the paper. Go online. Okay, cell phones. Have you ever mentioned, those of you who have a smartphone, mention something that you were interested in to a friend, and then the next thing you know, when you're searching social media, my goodness, there's an advertisement for the thing that you were thinking about. Anybody ever have that experience? I have. And then I start going, wait a minute, they're listening. I was talking to a friend about how I wanted a kayak. And the next thing you know, there were kayaks in my advertisements. And then I open up Amazon, and sure enough, it's in the scroll bar. There's kayaks. You think they're not listening? They want to sell you something. And there's always something to buy. But here's what the Bible has to say about what we should be doing with our money. In Proverbs chapter 6, verses 6 through 8, it says, "Go to the ant, you sluggard. Consider its ways and be wise. It has no commander, no overseer or ruler, yet it stores its provisions in summer and gathers its food at harvest." Which is to say this: don't consume everything that you make. Set some aside. In Proverbs chapter 21, verse 20, it says, "In the house of the wise are stores of choice food and oil, but a foolish man devours all he has." Don't live check to check. Why? Because it's not wise. Oh, you know, here today, gone tomorrow. No, that's not what we're called to. That's not fun, to be honest with you. If you've ever gotten to the end of the rations, it's not fun to go, oh no. I was talking to Tammy on Wednesday night about what it was to be in college, and she mentioned a time where she had a whole weekend in college where all she had was just very few rations of food. And I remember doing the same thing. I remember sitting there, and at the college that we went to, we both went to the same college. And what would happen is on Saturday morning, if you lived in the dorms, they fed you a meal. And then the next meal you got wasn't till Sunday towards the evening, if you lived in the dorms. So you had to fend for yourself from about 10 a.m. Saturday till about 2 o'clock on Sunday. That's a long time for a growing college kid to go without food, right? And so sometimes through the week, you might squirrel away a little bag of cereal or something from the cafeteria. But if you hadn't done that, you were going to just take care of it yourself. And how many of you know that in college, it's amazing, they throw all kinds of credit cards and things at you, but you really don't have a lot of money. I mean, most of the time, college kids are working at minimum wage jobs. If they've got a job at all, maybe they showed up and they were on scholarship and their mom says, no, I'll send you $20, you know. And there's occasionally that week where mom didn't send the $20, or you know what, they just didn't get paid that week. And you get to those rations and you're like, man, I'm hungry, but all I've got is this 1 cup of ramen. So I'm gonna have breakfast, and then I'll eat a late supper, or maybe that'll hold me over through church tomorrow, and then tomorrow afternoon I can have a sandwich. Or maybe you weren't in college and maybe you weren't getting a lot of money and it was hard. And maybe you're on the other side of that now and you look back at those times and you go, you know, I am grateful that I have everything I need. But you probably have everything you need because you stored some up, because it's the wise thing to do. 54% of people living paycheck to paycheck. It's scary. You're a medical bill away. You're a car problem away. You're a broken washing machine away. Nobody likes to sit there and scrub their clothes in the bathtub. Trust me, I've done it. So, what will we save for? Well, if we're going to save, let's save for emergencies. We talked last week about putting away $1,000 just in case Murphy shows up, right? And that's important. We want to continue to do that. Put aside for emergencies. After you've gotten your debt paid off, you're going to put aside for even more, right? Why? Because Murphy's not always just $1,000. Murphy could be a medical bill that comes along that's $2,000, $5,000. Murphy could be the heater goes out on your house or the water pump goes out on your house. Those aren't cheap, right? You got to get a new well dug. That's more than $1,000, right? The $1,000 will get you started, but you need to build up for that. You need that new iPhone. Wait, what? No, you don't. We're not going to save. That's not an emergency. Okay. And I see so many people, they get an electronic device and then they upgrade to the next newest electronic device. You know what? Last I checked, those things last a while. Use it till it wears out. Why? Because that's like $1,000 investment every time. And remember, we're not doing payments anymore. We're going to save up for purchases. Now, I'm not saying like purchases of anything, but you know, things wear out, right? Things like your car, things like furniture, things like just about anything we use, clothes. But here's the thing. We're not going to put those things on cards anymore. We're going to go ahead and pay cash for those things. So we're going to save up for purchases that are things we enjoy. I'm not saying that you're going to drive that cheap car forever. There may be a time where you have enough income that you go, you know, I'm finally going to buy my dream car. Well, here's what I want to encourage you with. Save for it. Don't pay somebody else interest for it. Save for it. And then you're going to save up for your future. What do you mean, my future? Some of you are retired, so you're experiencing some of this, right? You've saved to get there. How many of you aren't retired, but you look forward to that time? I'm not retired. I look forward to that time. Okay. And so I save for it. I have 2 little kids, and you know what? They've got a future too. I've got a little girl, and she's going to need braces someday. And I'm sure my son will too. Well, those things aren't cheap, but I'm going to save for them. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to prioritize our dollars to get there, though. We're going to tithe 10% to God. We're going to dwindle down to where we have minimal living expenses. Why? Because the more you have, the more trouble it is, right? We're going to build that emergency fund we talked about. We're going to pay off our debt. And the final thing we're going to do is we are going to invest money. There's 2 ways to make money, isn't there? I mean, there's people making money. That's a job. How many of you have had a job in your life? Right? You worked. Maybe you owned your own business. That's awesome. Maybe you didn't. Maybe you just chose to work for somebody else and they paid you a wage to do something for them. And that's a lot of work, isn't it? How many of you think it's fun to go to work for 40, 60 hours a week? Oh, I'm surprised. I'm shocked. It's not fun, right? But it's something we do so we can earn money, so we can pay for all those bills that we have, so we can live, right? Roof over our head, food in our belly. So unless you're going to marry somebody that's rich, it's a pretty good bet you're going to have to work. And that means you should be doing a job you enjoy. In 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, verse 10, it says, if a man will not work, he shall not eat. It's a necessity. We got to work. We got to be able to make ends meet. But the other way to make money is this. You have your money making you money. Now, your money making you money is a cool thing, okay? Because the thing about interest is it's working all of the time. 365 days a year, it's working. So if you've got a nice chunk of money set aside in, I'm not just saying a normal savings account, because in a normal savings account, as nice as it is to have those little chunks, you don't make the kind of interest that you can when you invest in something or you find like a high yield savings account where it makes more money. But the good thing about that money is, again, you don't have to wake up in the morning and go to the 9-to-5 job. It's going to keep growing on its own with interest. Matthew chapter 25 tells a story about these men who are given a talent by their master. And the first one is given a number of talents. He comes back, he's doubled it. The second one has given a number of talents. He comes back and he's gotten some, and so on until the last servant, he's taken his and he's buried it somewhere, and he comes back and it's gained nothing. And so Matthew 25:16, the man who had received the 5 talents went at once and put his money to work. He put his money to work. He didn't go to work. The work he did was to go put his money to work and gained 5 more. And that's what we're going to talk about this morning. We're going to talk about investing. And there are 3 rules to investing that I need you to hear this morning. And this may not be the most exciting and glamorous sermon you've ever heard, but I think it's important that we understand, because again, our job as Christ followers is to be great stewards of what it is he's given us. And when we choose not to, it's a slap in the face to God saying, you know what, that means nothing to me. So I want you to hear this. The first thing that you need to know is don't invest in things you don't understand. Don't invest in things you don't understand. If you don't understand Bitcoin, and trust me when I tell you, I don't understand Bitcoin, okay? Don't invest there. Why? Because you stand to lose a lot, okay? If you get an email from somebody in Nigeria who desires to give you mass amounts of wealth for a small investment, trust me, you don't understand what's going on. Please, 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 unless you intend to mess with that person, don't respond and give them your information. Why? Because that truly is easy come, easy go, right? It will disappear faster than you can say, go get them. And so don't invest in things you don't understand. Proverbs 24:3-4. By wisdom, a house is built, and through understanding, it is established through knowledge. Its rooms are filled with rare and beautiful treasures. By wisdom. There are so many things that will come along, opportunities that will come along, and you will think, hey, that might be a good idea. My grandfather owned a manufacturing company back in the 60s, And in the early 70s, there was a gentleman that came to him, and my grandfather was about ready to hang it up. And so this gentleman came to him and he offered him this unbelievable deal to buy into this opportunity to invest. And so he took all of their money, their savings, and he put it in that basket. And wouldn't you know it, it folded. And my grandmother and my grandfather were left with just a little bit, not what they had invested. People back in the 90s, they invested in Lucent Technologies, was the second largest investment that you could invest in with GE. At the time, it was worth thousands of dollars. I looked it up the other day, Friday. The value of the stock for Lucent Technologies is $3.46, if anybody's interested in buying in. It went from huge, this is going to be the next big thing, this is going to be awesome, to very, very quickly. So if you don't understand what you've got going on, don't invest in it. Do things that are more safe, things that you can understand. Invest at your bank with things like CDs. Why? Because they're much more safe. Don't invest in things you don't understand. I have a friend who says sometimes the best investments are the ones that you don't make. The second thing that you should do is don't put all your eggs in one basket. I mentioned to you that my grandfather, he threw everything at one thing and it went away overnight. Ecclesiastes chapter 11, verse 2 says, give portions to 7, yes, to 8, for you do not know what disaster may come upon the land. Dave Ramsey puts it this way: investments are like manure. Too much in one place stinks. Spread it around. Invest in things like stocks and bonds, real estate, maybe gold. Here's something even better. Talking about if you don't understand, go talk to an advisor, a trusted. Ask around. Don't just go to the first one you find. Ask people you trust. Hey, who do you invest with? Oh, I invest with this guy over here. Oh, great. And then when you're talking to that guy, say, listen, I don't want everything in one basket. I want it spread around. And a good investor, he knows, you know what, you need it spread around. He's going to say, yes, let's do that. I've got some options. Let me show you this. And then ask him to help you understand. Have him explain it in layman's terms. I don't know about you, I'm not a doctor. And so when I go to the doctor and I ask for help and maybe I've got something going on, if I don't understand, I'll ask the question, could you explain that to me so I can understand it? I think what I heard you say is, but is that what you meant? And do that with your financial advisor. I think what I heard you say is, but can you better explain it so that I can understand it? If you'll do those things, the thing you'll find is you'll wind up in a lot better shape financially. The third thing is this: don't try to get rich quick. What? Don't try to get rich quick. I had a lady who worked for me, and she would always make me laugh. She was really close to retirement when I left, and she would come in my office. I'd ask her how things were going. She'd tell me, oh, yeah, this and this and this are happening. And I got to the stage where I needed to have the conversation with her about retirement. And the reason why is she was in charge of our customer service team. And so I was thinking to myself, I need to be looking for a replacement at some point because I'm not sure. She's really, really close to retirement. And we got to having the conversation and she said, well, I think I'm probably 3 years before I'm actually going to look at it. So, okay, so we've got some time. And then she would always leave my office with this, unless I win the lottery. Unless I win the lottery. Get rich quick. Doesn't the world throw that at you? Buy a lottery ticket. Invest in Bitcoin. You could get rich overnight, or you could go broke overnight. The best investments you'll make are long-term. Grind it out. Put it in a safe place that's going to get you decent interest and watch it grow. And don't just take the interest and spend it. Anybody ever hear of a dividend? So a dividend is what a stock pays you when they have a profitable quarter. What will happen is they will take the money and they will write a check to all of the shareholders. And it's a per share check. Don't spend your dividends. Pour them back into the stocks so that they can grow some more. Why? Because the long term is it grows and grows and grows. The more we save and save and save. People who want to get rich fall into temptation and trap and into many foolish and harmful desires that plunge men into ruin and destruction. 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 9. I have a friend who says the fastest way sometimes to double your money is to fold it and to put it in your pocket. And he's right. The fastest way to get rid of your money is to spend it. Don't spend it. Set it aside. Let it take its time and grow. Let it go to work for you. You've got options, things like building funds, stocks, bonds, real estate. Here's the thing about us as people, we're often sprinters more than we're marathon runners. We want things to hurry. We're always looking for the BBD, the bigger, better deal. Would you say you're that person? My wife is that person. My wife, before she ever makes a purchase, she will have researched it and researched it and researched it. And then she complains about the same thing with me because guess what? I'm that person too. I will take forever before I actually ever make the purchase. Why? Because I'm always looking for the bigger, better deal. Why? Because I want my money to go a long way. Why? Because I'm called to be a steward of what God's given me. And I don't believe that he put us here to not enjoy what he's given us. But I do believe that he put us here to steward that. And we can enjoy some of that while we are making that money serve us while we serve him. Amen? In Proverbs chapter 13, verse 11, it says this: he who gathers money little by little makes it grow. Money plus time plus consistency equals wealth. So I nerded again a little bit this week and kind of gave you some input as to how your money could grow. $5 a day invested at 12% over time. Now, I realize 12% is pretty hefty, okay, with the way the market runs, but it's doable if you find the right things. So over 5 years, that money becomes $12,250. Over 10 years, that money becomes $34,505. Over 20 years, that money becomes $148,388. Over 30 years, that becomes $500,000. Over 40 years, it's nearly $2 million. And over 50 years, it's almost $6 million. Now think about that. That's written for somebody, 50 years, that's written for somebody who starts investing at the age of 20 and then retires at the age of 70. And $5 a day. If a 30-year-old makes $48,000 a year and saves 15%, roughly $600 a month, in a 401k at 12% by age 70, they will have $7 million in their 401k. Now, that doesn't necessarily account for downturns, but your money can grow. And dare I say that most of us, if we've had a career, we've been able to make a decent living. I say decent. When you compare the living that you can make in the United States versus a living that you can make in some other countries, we got it well. We got it good. And if you can make sacrifices like we talked about last week and set aside some of that money, you can live an astronomical, wonderful life, putting money away, stewarding what it is that God has given. And that's what I want to encourage you with. Remember when we started this series, I told you what you do with what you have reveals what you believe. If I could look at your checking account, I could probably tell you what's important simply by looking at your check ledger. Why? Because you're going to spend money on things that are important to you, right? You're going to spend money on things that mean something to you. And so if I looked and I saw, you know what, this person tithes, you know what, this person, they make a modest living, but they make it stretch. You know, this person, they kind of give away some stuff now and again, and it looks like they're really serving people. It'd be easy to see that. Your checkbook ledger would tell me. I could tell you the opposite, though, if I saw, you know what, this person spends everything they have. We are what we spend our money on. Jesus invested in people. He was the ultimate example of what investing looked like. He invested in kingdom life. You can make money. You make money in real estate. You can make money. You make money at your job. You can make your money make money. But you're also called to make disciples. I hope that you're rich. And not just rich with money. I hope that you're rich with God's love. I hope that you live generously. You can't take it with you. But guess what you can do? You can invest in kingdom life. You can invest in places that it's making a difference. And you can pay that money on ahead. The question becomes, will you? Will you invest not just your dollars and cents, but your time? Will you invest for Christ's sake? We have one more week of this series. I can bet that most of you know what we're going to talk about next week. But I want to encourage you, if you're struggling with finances and you need help, come see me, reach out to somebody for help. Because I know it's about the most helpless place you can feel and be. And I don't want you to be there. God has called us to live freely. He has called us to live life and that more abundant. And it's not very abundant if you're buried under a load of financial chaos. So what I've taught you over the last 3 weeks has really been about how important it is that you get your finances right, that you unbury yourself so you're not chained. Because God desires so much more than for us to have to go to work and go to work and go to work and go to work and go to work. He desires for us to serve him And he's going to bless you. Have to work, obviously, but he's going to bless you if you will take that and invest it wisely and do things with your money that are godly things. I hope you'll invest. I hope that you understand where I've been coming from for the last few weeks. I hope that I've given you a picture that shows you that you can dig out, that you don't have to be stuck where you're at. And I hope that I've given you a picture that your future can be so much brighter than maybe you feel like it is now. Jesus came to set captives free. And if you're strapped, if you're tied because of money, that's not where he wants you.